I need you to halt whatever you are performing right now because what I am about to lay out is not conjecture, not a premise, and not a casual scan of the headlines. At 7:43 this morning, 3 Republican Senate chiefs walked into Mitch McConnell's office for what was supposed to be a routine leadership session. 47 minutes later, they walked out, and within 2 hours, Washington was ablaze with the most momentous internal party mutiny we have seen since Watergate. This is not about policy frictions. This is senior Republicans reaching the conclusion that Donald Trump has become uncontrollable. And what sparked it is going to astonish you. If you care about what occurs next, subscribe right now and activate notifications, because the next 72 hours will determine whether the Republican Party remains unified or fractures in a way it cannot fix. Here is what nobody is disclosing yet, and here is what I have verified through 3 separate sources inside the Senate Republican Conference. Early Wednesday morning at 2:17 a.m., Donald Trump places a call to the Senate Majority Leader and necessitates an immediate vote on what he terms the Emergency Powers Expansion Act. He delivers an ultimatum: ratify it by Friday, or he will primary every single one of them. He vows to campaign against Republicans in their own states. Then at 6:30 a.m., leaked audio begins spreading. A recording of Trump privately saying, "I do not need the Senate. These people work for me." That audio moves through senior Republican circles, and the reaction is not fear, it is outrage. By 7:43 a.m., an emergency session is summoned. McConnell, Thune, Barrasso, and Cornyn are behind closed doors for 47 minutes. And what they conclude in that room becomes the most significant defiance to Trump's authority from inside his own party that we have ever witnessed. To comprehend why this mutiny matters, you have to comprehend the mechanism Trump has used to dominate Senate Republicans for the past 8 years. It has not been ideology. It has not been policy. It has been fear weaponized efficiently. Fear that can discipline an entire party. Every Republican senator understands the instances. In 2020, Mitt Romney votes to convict Trump in the first impeachment trial. And Trump's response is immediate and savage. Romney is branded a dishonor, reprimanded by his own state party, isolated and politically crippled. The lesson is clear: oppose Trump and you pay. In 2021, Bill Cassidy votes to convict in the second impeachment. He tries to mend the relationship, shames himself publicly, votes with Trump again and again, pursues approval that never truly arrives, and the moment he stops being helpful, Trump backs a primary opponent anyway. The message solidifies. Loyalty is not protection, it is only a delay. Then in 2023, Kevin McCarthy negotiates a debt ceiling deal. Trump privately rejects, and within weeks, McCarthy is ousted as Speaker. The message becomes certain. Trump can ruin anyone at any time for any reason. That is how dictatorial control works. You do not penalize everyone, you make examples. After that, fear does the rest. For 8 years, that fear has been absolute. Senators watched careers terminate, watched colleagues get shamed, watched the cost of opposition play out in real time, and they kept concluding that compliance was safer than resistance. But Trump failed to account for one thing. Fear only works until people comprehend the threat never halts. That epiphany arrived this week because 3 factors merged and altered the calculation. First, the electoral math shifted. The 2024 Senate map is savage for Republicans. There are 23 Republican seats up for election and only 11 Democratic seats, and polling now reveals Trump association has become a net negative. Specific data from Montana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania reveals Republicans dropping 6 to 8 points when directly linked to Trump. One senator put it clearly to a colleague: "I can defend conservatism. I cannot defend chaos." Second, the Greenland fiasco is not just awkward, it is hazardous. NATO allies are spooked. The defense establishment is in mutiny, and one retired 4-star admiral summarized it as volatility, not strategy. Members of the Senate Armed Services Committee comprehend what many voters do not. When you vow military action against allied territory, you are not parlaying. You are destabilizing the international order. Third, the legal pressure is mounting. Multiple criminal cases are moving quicker. Emergency stays are being rejected. Trial dates are locking in. And a senior Republican attorney said privately that the party is looking at selecting someone who could be in federal jail by November. When you merge electoral fragility, foreign policy bravado, and criminal exposure, the cost-benefit analysis alters. Defending Trump stops being awkward and starts looking like political suicide. According to two sources briefed on the session, here is what occurred inside McConnell's office on Wednesday morning. The participants were McConnell, the traditionalist, John Thune, the realist, John Barrasso, the loyalist under pressure, and John Cornyn representing the raw electoral reality senators are facing. McConnell opened by playing the audio, the full 3-minute recording of Trump saying, "The Senate works for him." He played it twice. Nobody spoke. One source described the stillness as stifling because every person in the room understood what they were hearing. This was not a president annoyed with Congress. This was a president declaring Congress redundant. Then came the exchange that altered everything. Thune spoke first and said they could not defend any of it. Not the Greenland bluster, not the emergency powers necessity, not the vow to primary their own members. He said they could not go on television and clarify this to voters who were already drained. Barrasso responded with the tension showing in his words. He warned that if they oppose Trump publicly, he will ruin them individually. And he reminded them of the instances Romney, Cassidy, Cheney, the people who stood up and were ousted or made redundant. He asked how this was different. McConnell leaned forward and answered with the line that altered the room. He told them it was different because Trump is going to ruin them anyway. The question, he said, is not whether they survive politically, but whether they go down defending Trump or defending the institution. He warned that if they do not draw a line now, there will be no institution left to defend. Cornyn followed with the blunt electoral reality. He said Texas polling had him down 4 points, and every point was linked to Trump-adjacent chaos. He said voters want stability and leadership, not their senator clarifying why the president is talking about invading Greenland. This is where it becomes vital, because McConnell's proposal was not symbolic. It was structural. He laid out a plan. Draft a joint letter to the White House stating clearly the Senate will not vote on increasing emergency powers. Declare that leadership will not campaign with Trump unless the foreign policy bluster is tempered. Warn that if Trump starts primaries against sitting senators, leadership will support incumbents using the full war chest of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Then McConnell looked at each of them and necessitated an answer on the spot. Thune said yes instantly. Cornyn said yes. Barrasso stayed silent for what one source called the longest 30 seconds of the session. Then he said McConnell was asking him to commit political suicide. McConnell replied that he was asking him to do his job. Barrasso finally said yes. 4 men, 4 votes. And with that, the structure that has held the Republican Party together for 8 years began to snap. What occurred next moved with stunning speed. At 9:15 a.m., McConnell personally called 15 senior Republican senators with a simple message. They are doing this, and he needs to know who is with them. 3 committed instantly: Romney, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. That was anticipated. But 2 commitments astonished everyone involved: Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio. Pause on that for a second because Graham's shift is the earthquake. This is Trump's loudest advocate, the man who was golfing with him last weekend, the senator who has defended every Trump scandal and every indictment on television for years, and now he breaks. A source close to Graham says he told colleagues he has defended everything, but he will not defend vowing to invade Allied territory. He will not defend dismantling Senate authority, and he will not defend calling dissenting senators traitors. He said there is a line, and Trump crossed it. By 10:47 a.m., the letter is drafted. 5 pages, legal language, constitutional wording. The key line from a copy described by sources states, "They can no longer in good conscience enable conduct that endangers constitutional order and undermines the institutional prerogatives of the United States Senate." Before noon, 12 signatures are committed. At 11:30 a.m., Trump gets word. An aide alerts him through an encrypted message that McConnell and 11 others are signing a letter opposing the emergency powers push, and it will go public today. According to leaked texts spreading among staff, Trump's response is all caps, "Traitors, all of them." Then Trump moves. He starts calling loyalists. At 12:15 p.m., he calls Lindsey Graham. The call lasts under 2 minutes. Someone briefed on the conversation says Trump tells him, "You are dead to me." Graham responds, "Then I am dead," and the call terminates. Trump calls Rubio and says, "He made him and will ruin him." Rubio responds, according to the same source, that Trump is ruining himself and should do what he thinks he needs to do. Trump tries calling McConnell 3 times and McConnell does not answer. By 1:40 p.m., the split becomes visible. House Republicans issue a statement of full backing for the president. Senate Republicans stay conspicuously silent. Reporters notice the gap instantly. By 2 RPM, major outlets are running stories about Senate leadership refusing to back Trump's emergency powers necessity. At 3 RPM, the letter leaks, and it is described as deliberate. The Washington Post receives a copy. Politico verifies the signatures within minutes. By 3:15 p.m., the full text is everywhere, and the political world comprehends this is not a private friction. This is open mutiny. But the detail that leaks about 20 minutes later reveals how serious this is. A senior Republican strategist familiar with internal planning says Senate leadership has prepared a 3-stage contingency plan if Trump retaliates. Stage 1. If Trump attacks publicly, 5 additional senators issue supporting statements, and leadership holds a press conference affirming they respect the presidency but serve the Constitution first. Internal assessment puts this at 80% probability. Stage 2. If Trump starts primary challenges, the leadership PAC commits $50 million to defend incumbents. The NRSC refuses to fund challengers, and corporate donors are mobilized around the message that the conference stands together. Probability, 60%. Stage 3 is what they hope never to use. If Trump keeps escalating, the Senate moves forward with a formal resolution restricting executive emergency powers, requiring a bipartisan coalition and potentially including censure. Probability, 30%. One senator involved reportedly said they have wargamed every scenario, and if Trump wants a fight, they are prepared, and this time they are not backing down. Now here's the part that alters how you should scan the next phase. While Republicans were tearing themselves apart Wednesday afternoon, Senate Democrats held their own closed-door session. Sources say Chuck Schumer made a calculation that will shape what occurs next. Democrats had 2 options. Option 1 was to exploit the chaos, attack Trump and Republicans together, frame this as a GOP civil war, proving unfitness to govern, and campaign on dysfunction. The upside would be huge, but it risks reuniting Republicans against a common enemy. Option 2 was to enable the mutiny, stay publicly quiet, offer quiet support for constitutional measures, and let Republicans fully own the split, removing Trump's ability to turn this into partisan warfare. Sources familiar with Schumer's thinking say he chose option 2. The effect is political judo. If Democrats do not attack, then the story becomes Trump versus his own party, a narrative Trump cannot easily win. Behind the scenes, Democratic leadership sends guidance. No public celebration, no cable news victory laps, no statements mocking the letter. Instead, quiet offers to co-sponsor emergency powers limitation if Republicans move forward. The message to Senate Republicans is simple. Democrats will help them do the right thing without making them pay extra political cost. The Republican response to that silence is telling, because when Democrats do not provide an external enemy, the internal fractures widen. Wednesday evening at 4:30 p.m., Trump's Truth Social account erupts with 27 posts in 90 minutes, all caps, calling senators rhinos, necessitating primaries, claiming leadership equals deep state. At 5:15 p.m., the first primary challenge is announced. A mega-aligned challenger in South Carolina targeting Lindsey Graham. Graham responds with 4 words to reporters: "Bring it on." By 6:40 p.m., Fox News primetime coverage is visibly split. Sean Hannity defends Trump without reservation. Laura Ingraham expresses serious concerns about the Greenland bluster. Tucker Carlson says Republicans are finally showing spine. For the first time in years, conservative media is not speaking with one voice. At 8:00 p.m., corporate donors move. 3 major Republican donors issue a joint statement supporting constitutional governance and institutional stability. This is business code for backing the Senate, not Trump. By 9:30 p.m., the public count reaches 17 Republican senators aligned with the McConnell letter, with 5 more privately committed but not yet public. The number everyone is watching is 18. If 18 Republicans align with all Democrats, emergency powers expansion is blocked. 18 means Trump loses. Overnight, another development reveals the crisis is deepening. Thursday morning around 6 a.m., internal Republican polling data leaks to Politico. The numbers are devastating. A generic Republican candidate in swing states is +2. The same candidate with Trump's endorsement drops to -4. That is a 6-point swing. And that swing is the difference between holding the Senate and losing it. Then at 7:30 a.m., 3 Senate offices verify something else. 42 Republican Senate staffers sign an internal letter saying they cannot, in good conscience, continue defending the indefensible. The letter reportedly threatens mass resignations if senators backtrack. This is unprecedented. When junior staffers refuse to draft statements and answer phones for a reversal, the operation fails. At 8:15 a.m., the business community weighs in again. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce issues a statement emphasizing constitutional stability as essential for growth and investor confidence. A clear warning to stop the chaos or lose funding. The National Association of Manufacturers echoes the message within the hour. Corporate America just told Senate Republicans which side to be on. At 9 a.m., international pressure arrives. The UK Prime Minister's office issues a diplomatic statement expressing alarm about bluster targeting the territorial integrity of allied nations. Germany follows. France follows. The NATO Secretary General issues a statement reinforcing that Article 5 commitments are sacred and non-negotiable. Allies are publicly rebuking an American president, and Senate Republicans are reading those statements knowing Trump has created a real international crisis. This is not a single front. Trump is facing pressure from senators, staff, donors, media, and international allies. This is encirclement. When you are surrounded, you retreat or you escalate. Thursday, Trump chooses escalation. He announces an emergency rally in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham's home state, scheduled for this Saturday. The message is obvious. Real Republicans versus Rios. It is Trump declaring war on his own party in the most public way possible. By 11:30 a.m., Trump meets with his most loyal House allies. Names described by sources include Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and leadership figures within the House Freedom Caucus. They plan what one source calls a maximum pressure campaign against Senate Republicans. At 12:45 p.m., Trump posts on Truth Social that the 17 traitors will pay and calls for protests at Senate offices. Federal law enforcement elevates security concerns. Capitol Police move to heightened alert. Then McConnell responds publicly through a spokesperson, saying threats and intimidation will not deter constitutional responsibilities and that the Senate does not work for any individual. It serves the American people and the Constitution. But there is a part the statement does not highlight. Sources say McConnell quietly reaches out to 5 Democratic senators, not Schumer, but visible moderates. Names described include Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, John Tester, Sherrod Brown, and Bob Casey. The message is direct. If Republicans move forward with emergency powers limitations, will they support it? All 5 say yes. The math changes. With 17 Republicans committed, and those Democrats willing, the votes to block expanded emergency powers are there. Trump does not know it yet, but the mutiny has already succeeded. Step back and understand what this represents. This is not only one crisis, it is the mechanism of authoritarian control breaking in real time. First, fear stops working. Trump's entire structure depended on Republicans being more afraid of him than of electoral consequences. That calculation reversed. Second, collective action breaks authoritarian leverage. Authoritarians isolate targets and pick them off one by one. But when senators move together, commit publicly and sign their names, nobody can be singled out. The risk becomes shared, and the protection becomes mutual. Third, institutions can resist when they choose to. The Senate has constitutional authority Trump needs, and for years it surrendered that authority voluntarily because senators feared personal consequences. Now they are reclaiming it, proving the weakness was a choice, not an inevitability. So what occurs next? There are 3 scenarios with honest probability. 1. Trump backs down, tempers bluster, drops the necessity, declares victory anyway. Probability 25%. 2. Stalemate. Trump continues attacks but avoids full primary war. The Senate holds firm but does not go further. The fracture continues through the election. Probability 50%. 3. Full rupture. Trump starts all-out primaries. The Senate passes emergency powers limits with Democratic votes. The party splits formally, and the electoral damage becomes catastrophic. Probability 25%. Based on conversations described with multiple Senate offices, the likely path is Scenario 2 drifting towards Scenario 3. The split does not heal. It widens gradually day by day until something breaks permanently. Bring it full circle. This mutiny is not about Greenland tariffs or routine policy frictions. It is about control of the Republican Party. Trump necessitated absolute authority, and the Senate said no. And that no alters everything. This fracture is structural, not emotional. It is political survival math. When defending Trump costs seats, behavior alters. Loyalty becomes liability. But here is the concern. Regardless of party, when authoritarians feel cornered, they escalate. Trump has never faced internal mutiny like this. His pattern under threat is to hit harder. What occurs when the target is not Democrats, but his own party? Can the Republican Party survive a civil war? Can American democracy handle the fallout of a major party tearing itself apart? Nobody has those answers, but we are going to find out soon. Subscribe right now and hit the notification bell, because over the next 48 hours, 3 things will become clear. Trump will either back down or double down. Senate Republicans will either hold firm or splinter, and we will see whether this mutiny becomes a revolution or just another failed attempt at resistance. I will be here breaking down every development as it occurs. The next 72 hours will decide whether Trump continues to dominate the Republican Party or whether the Republican Party finally moves to dominate Trump. Stay alert.